Hello everyone. Okay, so I'm really happy to be with all of you today. How are you? So, I hope that you are all okay during this pandemic. So, are you? Yes. So actually, we are really blessed that we were able to sit here and be here today. It means that we were able to overcome the year 2020. And at the same time, we were able to overcome the greatest challenge that we've faced since World War II, and that is the COVID-19. So I believe that it's like the transition from the normal to the new normal, right? And especially here in the Philippines, there's a lot of things that had happened, and there's a lot of things that have changed. And even in every individual who are here right now, there are so many things that had happened for the past year, right? Perhaps some of you, maybe some of you got the virus, or maybe some of you got the symptoms, or maybe there are also people who lost their job or had the salary decrease, or maybe there are also people that had a fewer customers in their company. And maybe also on the other hand, some of us got more opportunities. Maybe our your company became more in demand. Well, actually, it's different from for everyone. But as we experience this kind of situations, I would like to ask you this. Whenever we experience this kind of situations, what do you think is the most important thing that we should consider in, and what do you think is the most important thing that we should consider in our mind, or even in simple tasks, or in simple matters, even now, like listening to the lecture? What do you think is the most important thing we should have in our heart? What do you think? Yes. So I think you have a lot of answers inside of your heart. But before that, this time I would like to first give you a bonus. So can you read this? Okay. So is there anyone who could read this? Okay, some say yes and some say no. So actually, I'm a teacher in Lincoln School of Arts and Languages, and one of the subjects that I'm teaching is basic Korean. So this time, I would like to give you a bonus, and I would like to teach you some few Korean words. So first, first the first word is namta. Okay, everybody say namta. Yeah, so namta means left or remain. It means naiwan. Okay, namta. One more time, namta. Yes, so it means left or remain. And then next, kot. Okay, kot. Okay, everybody say kot. Okay, kot means thing. Okay, or bagay. Okay, kot. And next we have isa. Isa. Once again, isa. Yes. So, isa means has or meron. Okay. So, let's read this. Let's read the whole question. 남은 거 있어요? One more time. 남은 거 있어요? One more time. 남은 거 있어요? Okay, so actually, even though I cannot hear you saying or pronouncing this question, but then I think that you are all good. I think yung tunay na mga Koreano at Koreana ay nandito. Okay, so 남은 거 있어요? It means that is there something left? Okay, so actually in our daily lives, or in every activity that we do, or in every activity that you do, in any event that you participate in, or have you ever asked this question to yourself? Is there something left in me? What was left in me upon doing this activity? Or in future tense, we can say, what will remain in my heart when I face this? Ano kaya yung may iwan sa puso ko? You know, nowadays, since the pandemic started, many of our activities are held online, right? And upon joining and listening to many lectures, what was left in your heart? Or is there something left in your heart? Or did you just let the time pass? May naiwan po ba sa puso ninyo? Or hinayaan lang po ba nating lumipas ang panahon? Kung ganon, kung hinayaan lang po natin na basta-basta na lang lumipas yung panahon, talagang sobrang sayang po. Tama po? Dahil halos isang oras natin or yung pagod natin, yung pasensya natin, yung ginugol po natin. Kaya alam niyo po talagang importante na kung meron bang maiiwan sa puso natin. So just like in a building, let's say for example, in a mall or city hall, hundreds of people come and go, right? But at the end of the day, to ensure the safety of the mall or the city hall, hindi po ba kailangan merong maiwan doon? Kaya sino po ba yung dapat maiwan doon? Yes, yung magbabantay or yung guard. Tama po? Dahil kung walang maiiwan, pwedeng manakawan yung building, pwede rin merong mawala sa building. Kaya kahit gaano pong karaming tao yung pumapasok or lumalabas-pasok sa isang building or isang mall, ang pinaka-importante, it's not necessary that everyone should be left there. Pero pinaka-kailangan, meron bang maiiwan doon? At ganun din, meron ngang maiwan. Pero sa sino ba dapat yung maiwan sa building? Sino po sa palagay ninyo? Meron nga naiwan, pero magnanakaw naman pala yung naiwan. Kaya, actually, likewise with our life, life is in vain kung papalipasin na lang po natin yung lahat ng mga bagay na nangyayari sa atin nang walang naiiwan sa puso po natin. So I think you all know this, right? Yeah, so right now we are facing this pandemic disease and posibleng mga ilan sa atin na iniisip, kailan kaya matatapos itong pandemic na to? Matatapos pa kaya to? When meron din isip sa atin nag-iisip, when can I send my children to school and let them have their face-to-face class? Or will I be able to meet my friends again without any worries or without any worries of getting the virus? Or whenever we face situations like this, we usually have the question, will everything be back to normal? Or when will it be finished? What will happen after this? So we have so many questions in our heart. And not only, actually, not only in this kind of pandemic, but even in our daily lives or some tasks that we have. For example, even in preparing our examinations, our reports, our presentation. So madalas iniisip po natin na madalas iniisip natin, papasa kaya ako? Paano kung bumagsak ako? Paano kung makalimutan ko yung next line sa speech ko? Or paano kung magalit yung boss ko sa akin? Meron din tayong kaisipan na, paano kung yung kausap ko hindi niya tanggapin or hindi man lang niya maintindihan kung ano yung gusto kong ipaliwanag. So we all have these kind of thoughts and unconsciously hindi po natin napapansin na sa resulta na pala tayo tumitingin. Na sa resulta na pala tayo palaging nakatingin. Of course, it's also important to look at the result, but because of this, sometimes we overlook the process. So, Reggie Rivers, Reggie Rivers, a former American football player and a professional broadcaster, once said, "If you want to achieve your goal, do not focus on them." So let's say you want to lose weight and you want to start to be on a diet. So I think marami sa atin yung gustong ipanghako to sa sarili natin. But first, how does a diet start? Yes, it starts with a goal, right? And you say, okay, I want to lose 10 kilograms at the end of the year. Okay, that's great. You have a goal and you started on having your diet. So for a week, you lessen the amount of the food or you lessen the amount of the food you take or you eat. And then you also drink plenty of water, you did exercise, and then when you go to the scale, to the weighing scale, and check your weight, and you gained weight. Well, upon looking at that result, if you only focus on your goal, that you need to lose 10 kilograms, then you'll surely stop. Grabe naman, binawasan ko na nga yung pagkain ko, tapos tinis ko na nga kahit nagugutom ako, tapos wala naman nangyari, natagdagan pa yung timbang ko. So, meron po ba ditong nakaka-relate? Yeah, so we might have this kind of heart if we just focus on the result that we've seen. But everything that happens to us is a process. It's not that if you want to get A's in your score, you can have it as you want. Rather, it is your teacher who checks your work and gives the score, right? So it's out of your control. Our goal is out of our control. So if we realize that everything goes to a process, instead of looking at the result that you gained weight, you can start asking yourself, for this whole week, for this whole week of my diet, what have I gained? Compared to before, I now gradually learn how to control my desire. My body now is adapting to exercise, and I think it helps me be more active and etc. So, when these words remain in our heart, we now start to enjoy what we're doing and we'll be able to continue our diet. But the problem is, humans have the nature that every time we feel difficult, tuwing nahihirapan tayo, tuwing nabibigatan tayo, nagkakaroon tayo ng puso na, sana matapos na to. Gusto ko nang tigilan to. Gusto ko nang makaalis dito. Why? Because our heart flows like water. So as you can see here, when the water flows, it always avoids the stones and tries to find an easier way instead of overcoming them. So likewise, the human's heart always wants to avoid difficulties. We try to find a way to escape from them. Well, some people are happy whenever they face challenges. They are even happy when they hear that they have exams, reports, or presentations. So they're happy to hear that. What about you? Are you also happy whenever you hear those challenges? Yeah, yes, I know your answer. So, there are so many reasons why people are living comfortably with their wealth. So, some because they've inherited a good health from their family, and there are also people who, with the case that they won the lotto, or maybe some people, because of their hardships or because of their hard work, that's why they are now living comfortably. So let's think of these two kinds of people. So those who won the lottery and those who live with hardships. So do you think they'll have the same life? Yeah, no, right? So they might be both living comfortably, but the way of their living, the quality of their mind is totally different. So those people who undergo hardships, failures, have a deeper mind compared with those people who, in a blink of an eye, become a millionaire. Bakit po ba? Dahil naranasan na nila mismo yung kahirapan. Dahil sila mismo naranasan nila yung kahirapan, alam nila yung puso ng mga taong nahihirapan. Kasi sila mismo naranasan nila yun. They have this know-how on how to overcome hardships. And mas alam din nila precisely kung paano ba malalampasan yung mga kahirapan. Dahil sila mismo na-witness nila to. And likewise with those students who passed the exam. So one who passed because of cheating and the other one who passed through studying or reviewing. So sa mga estudyanteng nakapasa dahil nag-aral sila, maliban sa mas marami silang matututunan sa subject na yun, mas nagkakaroon din sila ng wisdom sa loob nila kung paano ma-absorb yung isang bagay. At saka magkakaroon din sila ng wisdom na paano ba dapat mag-aral. At paano ba lalagpasan itong kahirapan na nararanasan ko ngayon. Kaya kahit sa ibang sitwasyon, pwede rin nila itong ma-apply. So, alam niyo po, life or ang buhay natin ay isang prosesa where everything should undergo a process for it to function well. However, many people want to live an easy life. So, we just want to win a lottery. Okay, so this is a dandelion. So do you know that dandelions produce thousands of seeds and fly on the air? Yeah. So, but this dandelion produce thousands of seeds and fly on the air. However, as the seeds fly, not all of them survive, but only one, two, or three of them survive, live, and grow. So, likewise with the turtles. The turtle lays eggs, hundreds of eggs, and yet almost all of these baby turtles die. So while they're on their way, while they're on their way to the ocean, some of them are being eaten by the seabirds, being eaten by the creatures or other creatures in the ocean, and almost one or two survive. But what kind of mindset do the turtles and dandelions have in common? So even one, two, or three is enough. Even one, two, or three. So regardless of the result, regardless of the number of the survivors, what matters the most is what remains, the process, the path that this turtle or dandelion have encountered. So it's not the result, but but what remains that matter the most. So they don't focus on the result, but the struggles they have overcome, the process that they have undergone. So, as we live, of course, it's important to have a positive mind, but there's one more thing that we need to consider. In every situation that we face, in every person that we encounter, in every event that happened in our life, what was left in us? What was left in our heart? In every circumstance we face, we have to think, what can I gain from this? After this, what will be left in me? Yes, because in every event of our life, there are so many things to gain. So let's say, for example, even if you have a very good cell phone, a very expensive one, but if you don't know how to use it, or if you don't know how to use the special functions that it has, which other phone doesn't have, let's say, for example, your cell phone has special effects in camera. If you don't know how to use these special functions, then it's useless. Not only with phones, kahit sa mga iba't ibang bagay. Actually, yung bawat bagay, marami pong mga gamit. So maybe some of you do browse YouTube, Facebook, Google, and watch some videos, right? And one of my favorite kinds of video are the life hacks. So life hacks? Okay, so I would like to first show you some life hacks that I find very useful in our daily life. So let's first watch this. Okay, so how was it? Have you learned something? While watching the video, I had the thought that, ganun pala. Pwede pala yun. Meron pala nun. Okay, so, likewise, there's so much life hacks. There's so much life hacks in our life, in our daily life. So, there are so much functions within it. There's so much things that we could get or we could gain from it. But if we won't be able to see those things, if there's nothing that will be left inside of our heart, then how much waste is it? Sobrang sayang po. Kaya sa bawat bagay po na ginagawa natin or kinakaharap natin, anong klaseng puso po ba yung daladala natin? Basta matapos na lang to. Sana matapos na siyang magsalita. Ang hirap naman nito. O tinatanong ba natin yung sarili natin na, ano kaya yung maiiwan sa puso ko? May naiwan ba sa puso ko habang nakikinig ako? So, can you see this? Or can you see what's written on this coin? Okay, so can you see what's written on these coins? Yes. So it's the British £2 coin. So I think £2 in the Philippine peso, it's around 130 pesos. So can you read what's written on these coins? Yes. Standing on the shoulder of giants. So this British £2 coin bears on its edge the inscription, standing on the shoulders of giants. So actually this quotation was the quotation of Isaac Newton, and he said, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. So he said that he was able to see further at mas naging malawak yung pag-iisip niya. Hindi dahil sa may maganda siyang vision or mas matalino siya kaysa sa iba, kundi dahil sa lugar na kinatatayuan niya. Dahil sa nakatayo siya sa balikat ng mga higante. So, sino po ba yung mga higante na tinutukoy ni Isaac Newton? Sila yung mga taong mas nauna sa kanya. Yung mga iba pang tao na dakilang scientists na those scientists who inspired his theories and works. So, katulad po nito, looking from the ground and looking from the top of the building are totally different from each other. Kung nasa lupa ka or nasa ground tayo, hanggang dito lang po yung makikita natin. Ito lang nasa paligid natin. Ito lang po yung makikita natin. Pero kung tumayo po tayo sa tuktok or sa taas ng building, ibang-iba po yung makikita natin. Mas malawak. Tulad ng pagtayo sa balikat ng higante. Kasi di ba malaki po yung higante. So, mas malawak yung makikita natin. Kaya depende kung sa anong posisyon ba tayo tumitingin. For example, the owner of a company and its employee. Ano ba yung pagkakaiba nilang dalawa? An owner is ready to give everything that he has. Kahit buong lakas niya, lahat ng pera niya, kaya niyang gamitin. Why? Because he owns the company. Akin to, buhay ko to. Ito yung posisyon ng puso po niya. On the other hand, an employee works according to his position. Kung nilagay siya sa area na to or sa posisyon na to, hanggang dito na lang siya nagtatrabaho. Kung ano lang yung inutos sa kanya, yun lang yung gagawin niya. So likewise, when we face a certain situation, what is the position of our heart? Saan po ba nakaposisyon yung puso natin? Those people who live with the heart positioned in, it's difficult, I just want to finish this. What if I fail? Basta matapos na lang to, ang hirap naman nito. At yung mga taong, ano kaya yung may iwan sa puso ko? What will be left in my heart after this? Yung mga taong yung ganitong mga tao, magkakaroon po ng sobrang magkaibang pagtingin, reaction at attitude habang ginagawa yung isang bagay. I would like to tell you a story. So I think many of you are familiar with the story of Naaman. Tama po ba? Yeah, so it says in the book of 2 Kings chapter 5 that Naaman was the captain of the host of the king of Syria, right? And was the mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. But at this time, I would like to tell you the story, but not Naaman's story, the story of the girl that he captured. So let's talk about her story. When I think of the heart of this girl, kung isipin natin, gaano po kaya kasakit yung puso niya nung nahuli siya? Imagine, you were separated from your family and perhaps her family and maybe many people in her country were killed by Naaman and Naaman's army. Kaya habang nag-stay siya sa bahay ni Naaman, gaano po kaya kalungkot? Gaano po kaya gaanong kabigat or gaano kaya kakalaki yung galit niya sa mga taga-Syria? Kaya posibleng tinatanong din niya yung Diyos, bakit ko ba nararanasan yung kahirapan na to? Bakit ba kailangan mabuhay ako bilang alipin? Bakit kaya ako dinala dito? Siguro, meron siyang ganitong klaseng mga katanungan at kabigatan po sa puso niya. Pero, ano po ba yung ginawa ng dalagitang ito? So, in 2 Kings chapter 2, in Second Kings chapter 5 verse 3 it says, "And she said unto her mistress, Would that my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, then would he recover him of his leprosy." So let's take a closer look at this story. How come that this girl helped the man who captured and took her away from her family? That she even suggested a way on how he would be healed. Bakit at saka paano po kaya nagawa ng dalagitang ito na tulungan pa niya yung taong humuli at naghiwalay sa kanya mula sa pamilya niya? Kung tutuusin, di ba, punong-puno po siya ng galit or kalungkutan sa puso niya. You know, this girl for sure nagkaroon po siya ng kahirapan, bigat sa puso niya, pero habang nag-i-stay siya sa bahay ni Naaman, imbis na manatili siya sa kabigatan at mag-isip kung mag-isip na gusto kong umalis dito. Kaya habang nag-iisip po siya ng malalim, while she was thinking deeply, she started to think and ask herself, who sent me here? Why I am here? For sure, it's God who sent me. But why? What is His purpose? And as she was thinking deeply, she was able to realize, the reason why I was captured is for the great work of God be manifested. For these people to know that the God of Israel is the Almighty and powerful God. And this thought led to the manifestation of God's word. And this thought of the girl made Naaman be cleansed. Sa puso ng dalaga po, merong pumasok na kabigatan, katanungan, galit. Pero nung simula po siyang nagsimula niyang isipin yung puso ng Diyos na nagdala sa kanya sa Syria. Bakit kaya ako nandito? Ano ba yung dahilan? At habang nag-iisip siya ng ganito, alin ba sa dalawang puso yung naiwan sa puso niya? Pinadala pala ako ng Diyos dito. Nabihag pala ako dahil ako yung gusto niyang gamitin. Ako yung gustong gamitin ng Diyos na daan upang maipakita yung gawa niya. At dahil dito, dahil ito yung puso na naiwan sa kanya, nawala yung kabigatan niya. At ang pusong naiwan sa kanya ay nagbunga po ng dakilang bagay. So just like a seed, the seed that remains on the ground grows and bear the fruit, right? So the thing that will be left in your heart, in our heart, will bear the fruit. So, katulad nitong dalagitan na to, merong umusbong na dalawang kaisipan sa kanya. Isa, galit, naiinis, nahihirapan. Pero yung isang puso ay puso na nagtatanong, bakit kaya ako dinala ng Diyos dito? Ano kaya yung gusto niyang ibigay? Gusto pala ng Diyos na gamitin ako para maipakita yung gawa niya. Kaya nung naiwan itong puso na to sa dalagitang ito, ano po ba yung nangyari? Nagbunga itong puso na to. Ano po nangyari? Si Naaman, nalinis, naipakita rin na ang Diyos pala ang tunay na Diyos. And a while ago, I made mention that I am a teacher in Lincoln School of Arts and Languages, right? So actually, Lincoln School is an in-house school for senior high school students. But for you to have a brief background about this school, I would like to first show you this promotional video of our school. Yes, and that is the Lincoln School of Arts and Languages. You know, in our school, in Lincoln School of Arts and Languages, we don't only teach academic, but we also teach the students and guide them on how to have a right mindset. And you know, as I guide the student, I receive so much stress from them, especially because it's an in-house school, so we meet and see the students all the time. So since the students are not familiar with the school schedule, especially when they are in grade 11. They are new students in the school, so many of them are having hard time to adjust. And sometimes, or many times, they do things which are out of the school regulations, and that stresses me out because you know we can just let the those things pass, right? Rather, we have to train and teach them every little thing. And one of the most challenging things was every student has their own personality. They have their own personality that I need to deal with. So imagine gaano po kayang kadami yung mga estudyante na kailangang isipin, tapos mga estudyante rin na dapat i-consider yung mga personality nila. Yeah, sometimes there were some students that I really couldn't understand and it was difficult for me to deal with them. But you know, while I was when I started to think and ask myself, what can I gain from these students? What will be left in my heart while I'm with them? Will I keep on receiving stress? Puro stress na lang ba yung makukuha ko mula sa kanila? So as I was contemplating, I realized that, wow, there's so much things I could gain from them, from these students, from this situation, from this stress. So through my students, I realized that I'll be able to know the world of heart deeply. That every time I approach them or sa tuwing kasama ko sila, syempre iba-ibang mga personality meron sila. Pero habang the more na nagkakasama kami, the more na mas lumalalim pala yung pag-iisip ko patungkol sa puso ng or mundo ng puso. So mas sila pala ang tumutulong sa akin para matutunan ko kung paano ko ba i-guide yung mga ibang tao din. Yung mga susunod pa na mga estudyante. So I remember there were these two students. They came to me and because they wanted to have a talk about their burdens while they are studying in the Lincoln School. So both of them, they almost have the same burden. And they said that there are times that they could not understand their teachers or they could not understand us, their teachers. And they said that it's really, sometimes it's hard for them to approach us, fearing that we might not listen to them. And sometimes they feel like there's like favoritism and or they think that some of their teachers hate them. So they shared some incidents that had happened which led them to have this kind of heart. And one of them also shared that during their awarding ceremony, because this student is actually a smart and talented one. So she said that somehow she had the expectation. She had the expectation that um, she would get some awards. But of course, you know, when we give awards to the students, right? There are so many things to calculate, so many things to consider, right? Yeah, so she was expecting some awards, but unfortunately, she wasn't able to get one. And that broke her heart, and she got disappointed. And I think maybe if I were also in the shoes of that student, I might also have the same heart. So she also said that because of that incident, there were so many thoughts popping in her mind, and the heart of not wanting to study in Lincoln School grew bigger and bigger. So while I was listening to them, first I was really thankful because I was really thankful that these students were able to open their heart and learn on how to share it or share the burdens that they had in their heart. So I told them, yes, you could be right. Perhaps your teachers hate you. Maybe they like others more than you. Maybe, we don't know. Or maybe you're right that when you talk to them, they won't listen. So let's say that everything you have in mind is correct. But the question is, are you happy with that? Do those thoughts give you peace and happiness? And then they said no. And I said, yes, that's it. You could be right, but when you think deeply about it, that righteousness in you, if that righteousness in you does not give you any happiness, then you think that's what God really wants to give you? No, right? And you not receiving the award, of course, it's really heartbreaking and disappointing. But do you think that heartbreak and disappointment are what God wants to give you? Then they answered no. I said, no, right? Then if not, we need to think and look at the other side. We have to move our eyes from we have to move our eyes to another position. Just like you looking at the ground and you looking by standing on the shoulders of giant or at the top of the building. So where do we need to move our heart? We have to move our hearts from my teacher hates me. I'm so sad. I did not get the award. To why does my teacher treat me that way? What does she want to tell me? Or why do I feel this way? Why did God put me in this position? So, through moving our heart to this position, from moving our heart from this position to this position, and letting these hearts remain in us, then the heart of sadness, burdens, confusion will go away. And while I was talking to them, to my students, I could see that their hearts were enlightened and were freed from burdens and darkness in their hearts. So I was really happy and thankful for that as I see them changing through having talked with them. So, like the girl captured by Naaman, there were burdens also. There were difficulties entered in the heart of my students. However, when they moved their hearts to another position and started to contemplate, why did God give me these burdens? What can I gain as I face this sadness? So when this heart remains in them, it bears fruit of enlightenment and happiness. So like what I've said a while ago, the seed that remains bears the fruit. Like the motto of Lincoln School of Arts and Languages. Sleep with happiness, wake up with hope. Meaning, when happiness remains in your heart, it bears hope. So katulad ng babaeng nahuli ni Naaman. Meron siyang dalawang klaseng puso. Naiinis, nagagalit, at meron ding puso na, ano kaya yung dahilan ng Diyos? Bakit kaya ako napunta dito? Kaya pala ako pinadala dito. Kasi para ipakita yung gawa ng Diyos. And ito yung naniwan sa puso niya. Di ba po nagbunga? Ano po yung bunga? Nalinis si Naaman. So likewise, inside of our heart, ano po ba yung naiiwan sa puso natin? Or meron bang naiiwan sa puso natin? Dahil yung bagay na maiiwan sa puso po natin, yun yung magbubunga. Maganda man yan or pangit, basta kung ano yung maiwan sa puso po natin, yun yung magbubunga. So before I end my lecture, actually one of the programs of the IYF or the International Youth Fellowship that I really like is the Good News Corps Overseas Volunteering Program. So this time, I would like to show you a short interview with our PGNCs and also with our Lincoln students. So let's watch this.
As a Good News Corps volunteer is yung, syempre, nung unang dating mo pa doon, hindi mo alam yung language, hindi mo ma-express kung ano yung gusto mong sabihin, like, gusto mong kumain or may gusto mong gawin, hindi mo masabi sa kanila kung ano yung nararamdaman mo. Kaya, as a Good News Corps volunteer, yun talaga para sa akin, yung pinakamahirap is yung hindi mo ma-express yung sarili.
Sa mga pinaka-worst experience ko, nung nag-GNC ako sa Vietnam, I think that is during summertime. Because dito sa Pilipinas is, alam natin na mainit. Pero nung nagpunta ko dun sa Vietnam, I don't know, pero siguro that time is sobrang mainit. And then nagkaroon ako ng sobrang maraming rashes. And then nagkaroon sobrang mainit. And then it came to halos nadalhin ako sa hospital dahil sa ganung mga rashes.
The worst experience I had when I was a Good News Corps volunteer in Japan was the time I was left behind after a live broadcast that we had on television in the streets of Hiroshima. So because that time, after the promotion, we started to pack up and we need to go back to the IYF Center. But that time, I asked Pastor Choi, Pastor, can you give me 5 minutes? I really need to pee. And then he said, okay. So I ran to the nearest CR. But after I came back to the place where they were, nobody was there anymore and the car was not there anymore. And I was really in a great panic. and I didn't know what to do. But during the time, I remember that the IYF directors had an exchange of calling card to the television staff and the host of the television. So I saw them, they were also packing up, and I went to the television host and then I asked her, "Ma'am, can you help me? Can you call the calling card of the person you had an exchange with earlier?" Like that. And then, she helped me a lot. She started calling, and then Director Arai answered the call, and then after the call, she told me, "Hey, they told you to just wait here and then they will come back and pick you up." That time I was really relieved. But while I was waiting, because that time I was wearing this traditional African costume, and it was winter and it was really cold, and all the people were looking at me, "Why is she wearing like that?" Maybe they were thinking like that. It was really uncomfortable, and it was the worst experience, I would say.
I think isa sa mga worst experience na na-experience namin nung kami pa ay volunteer po ay yung muntik na kaming hindi makabalik sa Vietnam kasi we had to renew our visa at that time, and then we're holding a student visa actually para patapos na po yung pag-aaral namin, and the fastest way to renew ay lumabas po kami ng bansa. So kailangan namin pumunta ng Laos, and then sobrang malayo po yon. And then, syempre, first trip namin at nagkaroon ng problema at hindi kami makabalik agad. Pero kahanga-hanga po na at the last minute, nag-provide yung Diyos ng private car na para masakyan namin at makabalik kami ng safe at mapayapa.
Yung pinaka-nahirapan po ako sa Lincoln, siguro po yung schedule po. Kasi nasanay po ako sa schedule po sa mga public school, and different siya. Because sa Lincoln po, from 6 hanggang 11, meron na po kaming allotted time kung para saan dapat i-push yung oras. Halimbawa po sa labas, pwede naming ipiliin na 30 minutes lang yung mag-aaral. Pero sa Lincoln, kailangan po namin sundin almost 2.5 hours. Kailangan po namin siyang i-google sa pag-aaral. Kaya nung nag-Lincoln po ako, nahirapan po ako sa pag-a-adjust at tanggapin yung schedule namin para sa 2 years na pag-aaral.
Siguro po para sa akin, yung pinakamahirap na na-experience ko, yung bawal pong lumabas. Kasi po, yung Lincoln po, in-house school po siya. Hindi po siya katulad sa labas na school na kapag pumasok ka, uuwi ka ulit sa bahay nyo. Tapos kapag may nakalimutan ka, babalik ka ulit sa bahay nyo. Ganun. Naging mahirap po siya sa akin kasi sanay po ako sa bahay na kapag nandun na yung kailangan ko, kukunin ko na lang. Pero sa Lincoln po, kailangan iisipin ko pa kung ano yung mga kakailanganin ko. Tapos isipin ko, wala pala si mama, walang magbibigay sa akin ng ganito, walang magdadala or mag-iisip na, ganito yung mga kailangan mo, ganito yung mga kailangan mo i-prepare. Pero yung sa akin po, parang magiging independent ka talaga na ikaw lang yung kikilos para sa sarili.
Yung pinakamahirap sa akin is yung habang nag-stay dito is yung pag-memorize, especially last year, nagkaroon kami ng choir sa aming school. Tapos bago kami kumanta, kailangan namin i-memorize yung mga word, yung mga lyrics, and then habang minemorize yun, sobrang nahihirapan ako. Tapos and then umiiyak ako sa mga bagay na yun kasi hindi lang sa mga lyrics ng kanta, kundi pati sa pag-memorize ng Bible sa memory verse, and then especially tatlong beses pa siyang i-memorize bago kumain. Kaya ayun yung pinakamahirap sa akin kasi yun po yung pinakamahina sa akin na pag-memorize na hindi basta-basta agad na nagigets kagaya ng ibang tao.
Siguro po, pinaka-nahirapan ako habang nag-aaral ako sa Lincoln School is yung pagsunod namin sa schedule. Kasi nung nag-aaral po ako sa labas, kailangan ko lang sundin yung schedule sa school. Pero after sa school, ako na bahala sa sarili ko. Pero nung pumasok po ako sa Lincoln, magmula pagkagising hanggang sa pagtulog is kailangan may sundin na schedule.
Warmth ng pagtanggap ng Thai people sa akin na kahit na hindi ko alam kung ano sasabihin ko sa kanila, hindi ko ma-express yung gusto kong sabihin, or syempre sarado yung puso ko sa kanila nung mga unang dating ko doon. Pero sila, they are willing to accept who you are, tatanggapin ka nila kung sino ka man, kahit ano pa yung ugali mo, kahit na nagsusungit ka sa kanila, or hindi ka nila maintindihan, they are willing to accept who you are. And as for me, yun talaga yung pinakatumatak sa puso ko nung time na volunteer ako.
Pumunta ako sa bundok, and then pumunta ako sa mga bahay ng mga ethnic people na kung saan nakita ko yung tunay na kaibahan ng buhay ng tao sa city and then yung mga buhay ng tao sa bundok. Nung nakatira ako sa city, I used to complain, and then I had many complaints kung bakit ganito ang buhay. Pero nung nakapunta ako dun sa bundok, and then nakita ko yung pamumuhay ng mga ethnic people na Vietnamese, nakita ko na sobrang baba ng puso nila, and then sobrang yung pamumuhay nila is simple lang. And then those are the memories that that is very clear inside of my heart until now.
Being a Goodness Corps volunteer, it taught me a lot of things. It taught me to be grateful not only of the good things that's happening in your life, but even the worst thing. Because once you experience the worst thing in your life, then you'll be able to appreciate the best things in life. Because the problems that we encounter actually, it's not a curse. It's not something. It's just bad. But these problems, these difficulties are blessing in disguise. Because later on, you will realize that through this problem, you grow. Through this problem, you become stronger. And that's what I learned when I was a Goodness Corps volunteer.
Actually, ang pinaka naiwan po talaga sa aking puso pagkatapos ko na maging isang GNC or volunteer ay walang iba kung hindi ang salita na salamat. Dahil talagang nakita ko po kung gaano kalaki ang pagbabago na naidulot nito sa aking buhay, personally, at lalong-lalo na po na ako ay nag-iisang anak lamang. Kaya hindi po ako nagsisisi na ako ay nag-iisang kaisa o parte ng programa na ito, at alam ko na kung hindi dahil dito ay hindi ko matututunan, mararanasan at madidiskubre ang mga bagay mula sa maliit hanggang sa malaking bagay. Kaya ako po talaga ay nagpapasalamat.
Yung pinaka naiwan po sa puso ko mula noon hanggang sa pag-aral ko sa Lincoln School is yung pagbabago sa sarili ko, dahil nakita ko po na may maraming pagbabago sa sarili ko, tulad nung pagiging connected sa ibang tao, yung pagiging open sa mga tao sa paligid ko, tapos yung wisdom galing sa mga teachers namin na ginaguide kami sa lahat ng bagay.
Yung pinaka naiwan sa puso ko is yung pagkakaroon ng connection sa ibang tao, tapos yung pag-share sa mga ibang tao. Actually, hindi ako masyadong nakikipag-friendly sa ibang mga tao, mas lalo sa mga kahit ka-close ko na hindi pa rin ako open sa kanila. Pero habang nandito sa loob ng Lincoln School, sobrang kahit na minsan nag-iisa ako, pero yung may connection pa rin sa kanila na kayang mag-share sa kanila ng puso kahit na sa maliit na bagay. Tapos, pero may times na parang, siyempre, may times na bumubulong sa akin na baka mamaya galit sila sa'yo. Pero pag pinansin ko na pala sila, hindi pala totoo yung kaisipan ko. Kaya, ayun din, kaya dito rin sa loob ng Lincoln School, natuto din na makipag-connection sa mga classmate, hindi lang sa mga classmate, kundi rin sa mga teachers na nakakasama ko, tsaka yung mga tao dito sa loob ng Lincoln School.
Na-experience namin magkaka-classmate, tapos kasama na rin yung mga teacher namin. Kasi po sa labas parang mahirap i-treasure yung mga bagay kasi parang hindi naman siya ganun ka-challenging para sa amin, parang normal na student. Pero sa Lincoln po, parang sobrang dami ring maganda at mapangit na na-experience namin. Katulad nung kapag na-late kami, makare-receive namin yung punishment. Nasa school naman, pag na-late kami, parang wala lang, parang ganun. Kaya sa Lincoln po, sobrang tumatak sa akin yung mga memories na na-experience ko. Tapos yung mga punishment, yung kung paano kami maglinis, paano kami magluto, maggawa ng activities. Tapos sa school din po namin dati, parang sasali lang kami para magkaroon ng grades. Sali lang kami sa activities sa school or sa labas ng school para tumas yung grade namin para maging achiever kami. Pero sa Lincoln po, parang hindi po yun yung pinaka-importante. Parang kailangan makinig lang kami sa teacher namin, sa mga tinuturo nila. Parang lahat ng yun, parang ang daling i-absorb kapag tinuturo sa iyo yung tamang mindset.
Yung pasasalamat, yung gratitude po. Kasi almost 2 years po kami and yung mga teachers ay hindi po sila nakatanggap ng salary for that time. And after ko graduate, naging certificate na teacher po ako sa music din. And doon po nakita ko kung paano yung pagtitiis nila sa amin and yung sakripisyo nila sa amin habang nagtuturo po sila sa amin. Kaya parang naramdaman ko na yung gratitude ay parang naiwan sa puso ko na parang malaki yung pasasalamat ko kasi natuto po ako ng music and then Korean and then yung mindset and then kung paano mag-adjust sa sitwasyon kahit na mahirap yung schedule, nagpapasalamat po ako sa ganung bagay.
Okay. So, thank you very much and maraming salamat po and ingat po kayo.